But at some point you will die. What will determine if you die with a smile on your face or not is what you gave your life to. Charlie gave his life in an instant. The rest of us are going to give our life over decades. If you don't live for something that you'd be willing to die for, you will die sad, alone, depressed, wishing you had done it differently. I want to die victoriously. And the way that you're going to die victoriously is that you gave your life to something that was more valuable than you.
That's impossible.
Let me tell you what I believe.
But your weakness is not your technique.
Yes! Yes!
Don't think you are. Know you are.
The Impossible Life podcast.
I mean, you're sitting on a winning lottery ticket.
An idea that is fully formed, fully understood, that sticks.
This is the Impossible Life podcast because Nick and I are attempting to live impossible lives. What we know is that nothing is impossible. So instead of using impossible as an excuse to not try, we'll use the pursuit of impossible as an accelerant for greatness. If something's never been done before, that just means it's unexplored. If they tell you it's too hard, it's just waiting to be simplified. Impossible is a default label used by uncourageous people unwilling to take a risk. The real truth is this: the solution to any impossible task starts with this question. If I had to, what would it take?
Welcome to another episode of the Impossible Life podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick Surface, and I'm sitting across from a man who treats goals like enemy strongholds. Identify, close distance, and eliminate. That's right, friends. The former Navy SEAL, Garrett Unkelbach, a man who has been referred to as the Lord's heat-seeking missile.
We had a rule of combat in the military, and it was aggressive action, or what we called overwhelming violence. It was, if you shoot at me, I'm not going to shoot back. I'm going to drop a bomb on you.
Yeah.
So in relation to the goals, why would I close the distance? If you have a stronghold, you know what you do to strongholds? Drop bombs on them.
Right.
Strongholds get eliminated very quickly.
Right. Well, I mean, closing the distance could be the actual firing of the missile. What you're saying is that my intro was not precisely accurate.
I'm not even gonna start with a ground approach. I'm just gonna Moab you.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember the first time you told me about that, I was like, man, that seems really harsh. And then I realized that all the action movies where they pull a gun out and have a 5-minute conversation, or like, I remember you just said, you're like, how do I know that the guy with the knife doesn't also have a gun? Or how do I know the guy with a gun doesn't also have like an RPG? And the truth is you don't. But in the movies, it's like they pull their gun out and then maybe they'll cock it after they've said something.
There's a lot less story in reality.
Exactly.
He turned as he was turning towards me, shot.
You're right. Yeah, exactly.
Movie's over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought he had
what was a 5-minute scene in the movie is like a 1.5 scene in reality.
That's so disappointing. Like, dude, that's so disappointing for people who don't actually know, because ever since then I've realized, like, dude, the moment you pull a gun out, like if someone shoots you, you got what you deserved, because like you showing it is saying I intend to use this to somebody who's trained. Yeah. And like people that just watch movies don't get that.
I'm not the Terminator, and I can wait until my supercomputer brain is examining your trigger. Yeah. And when you're 3.5 pounds of pull into a 4-pound trigger,
yeah,
dude, I put a laser beam through your forehead. I'm sorry, I'm not that calculated.
Yeah. Yeah, you're calculated just in a different way.
I can't do that. So what I do have to do is when you point a weapon at me, that means you get eliminated.
Or begin to even reach for it. Yeah. That's whenever the elimination process has begun.
I'm not going to give you the opportunity.
Anyways, I just thought that was a fun lesson to learn. I'm teaching that to my kids as well, because they love Elijah in particular is really enjoying handling fake weapons right now. He's learning not to point Nerf guns at people's eyes and stuff. It's good. All right, so today's man, I love this episode, man, a lot. I feel like I love all our episodes, and it's because I do. But how to live the most purposeful year of your life. Man, this is something I'm deeply passionate about, because I look at like my progressive years that we've done on the Impossible Life, and they've just like every year in my life just keeps getting better. And I really mean that.
And understand the title here. It's how to live the most purposeful year of your life, not how to live your purpose next year.
Right.
There's a difference.
Very big difference. Yeah. And we're going to get into that. So today we're literally going to just take you through exactly what we said, like how to live a year that when you're done, you're going, oh man, like it felt like 3 years of, and every day was just like that today matters feeling. And you said something, Garrett, once that I Absolutely loved it. It was the first time I heard you say it. You talked about potential in relation to video games. And I remember like you were saying it to other people, and I was sat there and I was like, man, this is so good. And like I've remembered it because it was such a good picture for understanding your life.
It's one of my basic analogies. It works great on younger audiences and on audiences that play video games, which I would guess probably only half of our audience has ever played a video game.
No, dude, I think way more than that has.
You think?
Dude, a bunch of guys, like our audience is like 92% male.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think 92% of men play video games.
I'm not saying now. I'm saying they have played a video game.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, the analogy. Well, I tell people, why wouldn't you live your life the way that you've played a video game, right? If you play a role-playing game like you begin and you get this character, and the entire, like all you can think about is, for one, there's a purpose for my character.
Right.
I know there's an end that I'm supposed to get to. There's a final boss that I have to defeat, and I'm not ready for it now. So I'm going to have to go through lots of training and preparation to get my character ready for because I know there's a story that's been written for me.
Yeah.
You believe about the character that the character will be capable of, but is not yet capable of defeating the final boss. And so what I have to do today is train and develop my character. And every time you log in and play one of those games, you're just thinking, where's the thing that's going to grow me the most?
Right.
Like where can I get new gear? Where can I learn new skills? Where can I get information that helps lead me? Because you don't even know how to, when you first play these games, you don't even know how to get to the final boss. Sometimes you don't even know who he is.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're either, where can I get gear? Where can I develop skills and make my character better? Or where can I learn more about my story?
Yeah.
And you spend all of your time on these activities. And there's in video games, there's also side quests that, they benefit you. Like there's growth and skills that come from those because you have to do, and like the really hard RPGs, you have to do some side quests to make sure you're strong enough for the main quest. But the way that I see a lot of people live their lives is that they don't pursue the main storyline. They, instead of spending all their time developing their skills, they think about what would be the most fun for my character.
Yeah. I really like that mini game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be, exactly what it'd be like you log into a lot of the big story games have like some great mini games in them.
Yeah. And
all you ever did was play the mini game.
Right.
Or you do some of the side quests, and the difference is in reality in the world that we live in, a lot of the side quests, in a video game, the side quests are meant to help develop you. They're not a distraction.
Right.
They don't contribute to the main quest, but they give you resources to help along the main quest.
Right.
In the reality that we live in, a lot of the side quests are actually a distraction and meant to take you away from the main quest. And people will spend all of their lives on a side quest or on a mini game, and they don't use all of their time, effort, and resources to make their character better. So I would lead with this analogy and then just say to, some young men, why don't you live your life the way that you play a video game?
Yeah.
And no one has a good answer for that.
Yeah.
Because the answer is you should.
Right.
You should live your life exactly the way you play a video game, which is I'm going to log in and I'm going to train and I'm going to I'm going to push my character to his most uncomfortable limits. I actually really enjoy making my character uncomfortable. Let's get him to fully depleted mana, 1 HP, but we won. We did it. Because that was the hardest test that we could have possibly passed.
Yeah.
Which means maximum benefit for my growth. And I'm going to live knowing that there is something great that I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to keep pushing forward knowing that I'm going to get there and develop myself as much as I can along the way.
Yeah. And the question would also be if you're that video game character, what do you think your character should do? Because like you're saying, you would develop them. Well, you can log in. I mean, if you said RPG, which is role-playing games for those of you that aren't actually video game players, you typically, when you select your character, they always have some natural strength.
There's 8 to 12 options of hey, you can beat the game with any of these characters. Which one you want to play?
Yeah. I mean, you do this when you drive, if you go to Dave & Buster's or whatever your local kind of video game spot is, and you play a race car, you select your car and they're like, this one has better handling, this one has more power, but not as much handling. And this one's heavy. You always have something. And so we all get this in a video game selection. Oh, I'll take this vehicle because I want to play this way. But we don't think about ourselves.
Max acceleration, baby.
Right. Well, yeah, but we don't think that way about ourselves in life. And that's what I think is, so when you start, if you zoom out and you go, okay, I'm a video game player, what should my character be doing and what should I be doing to maximize?
Shout out to the episode called Winning Philosophy.
Oh man. Yeah.
Because the truth is we didn't get to select our car. We're given a car.
Exactly right.
And so, if you got the max acceleration car, you're going to play the game one way. If you got the best handling car, you're going to play the game another way. If you got the car with the most like grip, meaning like you don't have to drive straight, you can drive through the mud and you're still going to get good traction.
Yeah.
You play the game a different way. In Winning Philosophy, that episode is really about understanding like what are the gifts that you have? Why do you win? Right? The car that's the fastest accelerator, it says like I win because like I take off, I get ahead of everyone and I try to stay ahead.
Yeah.
That's the winning philosophy of that car.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to know what your winning philosophy is. And that, a lot of that's based upon your mindset, but some of your mindset comes from your natural gifting.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to revisit that one, G, just to put a pin in that one, because
it is a good one.
I've been talking to people about that recently. It's something that I've actually cracked. I thought I knew what mine was, and I had a reassessment recently, and I was like, now I know what mine actually is. So
that alone is reason to revisit it.
I agree. Okay, so I mean, you talked. I think what's so going back to what you said about the video game character. I remember when I heard you said, I was like, oh man. And then when you start thinking about like the side quests and you never actually got to the main mission, dude, I hope that like that eats at you the way that like the thought of doing that, of I spent my whole life just doing like little fun things, but never actually completing the mission that I was on. Like, okay, if it's just a video game and the video game is solely there for your enjoyment, great. But guess what? God didn't give you your life solely for your enjoyment. Like we're not, like you said, we're not the ones that get to pick our character. God's the one who did it.
Here's the other element that exists in our game that doesn't really exist in the other game. Is that there's a clock.
Yeah.
There's a clock running the whole time that you can't see that the game's going to be over at some point.
Man. Oh, okay. All right.
So don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time. So the question naturally becomes like, what's the mission you're on? And I think that that's a question that eats at a lot of people, because the number one question we get all the time is how to find your purpose, right? It's literally what people get in touch. I haven't told you this, and I saved it for the podcast. Okay. I knew you would love this. So
I'm hearing this now for the first time.
Yeah, because we get asked about purpose so much. If you go into, so I said this to some people recently, I can't remember where, but if you ever want to find an episode on something for us, whether you use this to listen to our podcast or not, if you go to the Spotify app on your phone, once you go into the show, you can just, if you pull down on your phone to scroll so that you can see the very top, suddenly it has a search the show option. And so you can look up by keyword. So I looked up purpose the other day to give, I think it was when we were doing a podcast. Actually, it was the last podcast we were on. I was giving people episodes to go back. And I realized how much we talk about purpose, because it is the number one question we ask.
It's what matters most.
But we're getting to a growth size, praise the Lord, where we're starting to get a lot of people that reach out and try and sell us stuff. And so this guy reached out and tried to sell us some SEO for our podcast. And it was a really well done email. I know a thing or two about SEO.
So, you do.
So he wasn't talking foreign language to me. And what's so funny is I think how this was designed to go was it goes like, hey, here's all the things that you're ranking for. Here, if this isn't what you actually want to rank for, we can help you. Well, the number one thing we ranked for was purpose. And I was like, boom, done. I was like, so his email, like, we're not going to work with this guy simply because it's already going exactly, we're ranking on what we want to rank for, which is purpose.
Well, that's funny too, because most people, like, they have to do SEO work.
Yeah.
Because their message doesn't line up with their identity.
Right.
We are exactly, like, we talk about exactly what we want to be and exactly what we say.
Yeah.
What we say that we are. That's so fun. Like that, if I could pick a number one SEO rank for us, it would be purpose.
Well, and that's what we said from the beginning. It's like the reason we say that is because people ask us about it, and we live very purposeful lives. And I've got to, I've learned so much about it from you. Like, I mean, it'd be stupid for me to try and pretend like it wasn't the case, because you can just go back and listen to the podcast and find, you can see all the things. But it's also been like, when God puts you together for a reason, like he has with us, you're going to naturally bring what God's gifted you with. So I've brought some of the unique glory of God that I carry to things. You brought something that was way further developed and down the road. And so 1 and 1 equals 3. It's God math, right? It's synergy. And so, I hate using the term synergy. I'm actually mad that I use that because it's such a like corporate buzzword. But anyways, so I thought that SEO story was funny, and because we get asked about this so much, like, let's just give it. I mean, that's why we developed the Purpose Playbook, which we released recently, is because we get that question so much. And really what we're doing today, because I know not everybody's, I would love for everybody to go get the Purpose Playbook, because we go into so much detail and we give you it's got like 36 pages of a workbook to help you literally map this out in your life. But I know not everybody's going to do that. So I was like, dude, let's just give it to them on the podcast, because if you're not going to go get the Purpose Playbook, hopefully you can still get something from listening to this. If you wanted to like really engineer your life, then that's why we made it. But we're going to give it to you today regardless, because that's what we're here to do, G, to help people grow, advance the kingdom of God.
Yeah, it's like all the things we do. The whole point of the podcast is we want to give as much value to people as possible.
100%.
But like life, there's extra work that you got to do if you want maximum benefit.
Yeah.
As I said before, you've probably already listened to the book that would change your life, right? So or read the book that would change your life. And so those things are great, but then you've got to put them into action. And really all the Purpose Playbook is it's like an action step guide.
Yeah.
Right? The stuff that we're going to talk about today, I'm giving it all to you. And then you could just go do it on your own if you want to. The Purpose Playbook, it's kind of like, it's the workbook, right? That goes with what we talk about today.
Yeah. And there's an hour of unique teaching that you're not going to get in this podcast, but because we're going to cover a lot. but to start with, G, so the very beginning of purpose, man, and how to live the most purposeful year of your life is you have to have the belief that God has a plan and purpose for your life, which is something you say all the time. But here's where I think a lot of people fall down. It's not for you to fail. God made you to prosper. And that sounds crazy, but it's wild to me that we have to convince people and we have to convince ourselves God actually wants you to prosper. And when you do things his way, you will grow in all areas of life. Like he did not give you work to do, create you for a purpose to go like, look, you messed it up. He wants it to be that when we put him on the throne in the right place and we follow his lead, that we win. And like we become that superpowered character that we talked about in the video game that goes out and accomplishes the plans and fulfills the storyline. But we struggle to believe that.
That's exactly right. Right? Like I said, when you purchase this video game and log in, you're logging, even on some of the games that are really hard, right? What's fun about those games is like I've played some games that are ridiculously hard. Those are the ones that I like. I won't reference any games because then you guys will know how much of a nerd I really am. But when you play these games that are extremely difficult, you still like, even though sometimes you get evidence, it's like, this game is ridiculous. It's impossible. I can't beat this game. You'll say that out of your mouth, but you know in your heart, this game is beatable.
Yeah.
Right? Now, some people will quit, not because they say, I can't beat this game. They'll say, I don't want to put in the time
That's exactly
to beat
right.
this game.
Yeah.
But they know it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? And that, like, because they've seen other people do it. Right? They know that the developers created the game for you to beat it. It's just hard to beat.
Yeah.
That's what a belief is. You've got to look at your life and say, I know that God has a great plan. I know that I was birthed for a reason. And so some of that belief comes from there's people who I would say get close to that, tend towards that belief, who don't have a relationship with Christ. When you have a relationship with Christ and you give authority to the word of God, you know that he created you in his image and that he created you for a purpose.
Yeah.
And what greatness looks like for your life, we've talked about this before. It's the Hebrew word rabah, where Genesis says to be fruitful and multiply. The word multiply is the Hebrew word rabah, which means to become great. And when you look at the definition of rabah, it's to become great, or it's all of it, to maximize.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what a great life for you looks like, is that you became everything God created you to be. And it is a meaningful God did not make you for no reason. God didn't make you to take up space. God didn't make you just so that you're, organic material that is born and dies and just gives its energy back to the earth. That is, nihilism in an organic biological form. There's no meaning and purpose to it, because what's inside of all of us, it's one of my favorite scriptures. It's Ecclesiastes 3:11. God placed eternity in the human heart. Humans get to see what no purpose looks like.
Yeah.
We see biology. We see animals. We see all of these things around us that have a very finite purpose, which is to be born and to die, and to give value to other places of the earth. Just like there's the water cycle, there's all different types of cycles of the earth, and you just watch it go through its process. But man fits outside of all of that. Man is not needed for those cycles. Those cycles all benefit man.
Right.
And what God put inside of us is this sense of meaning and purpose. It's like I like to say, like, man is the only creature that looks up at the stars and wonders, what is my place in all of this? Right? Wonderful, amazing, beautiful, intelligent animals live their lives and never wonder, what is my place in all of this? But man does, and that's because we're different. We're not just a piece of flesh. So you have to have this belief that, okay, I'm more than just a piece of flesh. That means I have a purpose. There's a God who made me for a purpose. And when you believe that, when you take on this belief, and you've got to understand, if you're new with us, I'll just give it again. Here's our definition of belief: things that you know are true but can't necessarily prove. Know are true but can't prove. If you knew it was true that your sports team would win at the end of the year, if you knew, you'd bet everything that you have on it.
All right.
But if you just like it, if you're just confident, a lot of people say they believe in something, they won't bet $1 on it. You have to bet all that you have. And here's the thing in life: if you want to be great, you're going to have to make a bet. You're going to have to make a choice. This is parable of the talents, by the way, right? If you read the parable of the talents, Matthew chapter 25, the one talent servant who the master calls wicked and lazy, he said, like, the first thing out of his mouth when the master calls him in to give an account for what he's done, he says, "Master, I was afraid." What he's saying is, "Master, I was scared to make a bet.
Yeah.
I was scared of losing it." The number one way to lose in life is to never play the game, right? You've got to decide, here's what I'm going to believe, here's what I'm going to bet in. And if you've lived any measure of life, and I'm just adding to some people's belief right now, if you've lived any measure of life, you've realized that I'm not the thing I should bet on.
Right.
Me, right? I'm not very dependable. The universe does not revolve around me. I'm not consistent enough that all of the world should be centered on my measure of order. There is an order that exists outside of me. And I want to make my bets placed upon an order that has always been and will always be. And that's who God is. And so when you know that God has a great plan for your life, then you will begin to play the game differently.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And that just gets me, like, I know it's our podcast, but I get fired up on our podcast. It's because it's true, man. Like, to wake up,
dude.
To wake up with that thought process. I mean, this is what people want. Like, you want to wake up and, like, know that what you're doing matters. You know, the emptiest time of my life when I was depressed was when I just woke up and was like, what's the point? I'm going to work to earn money I don't want, to spend on a house I don't want.
It's the promise of following God.
Yeah.
I think people get sold a false bill of goods sometimes with Christianity and following God. Here's the true promise of following God, that you won't know emptiness.
Yeah.
Right? He does not promise a life of ease, a life of comfort, a life of prosperity, a life of secular success. Those things are not promised to us. What is promised is that you'll become great in the definition of God's greatness.
Yes.
You will love what you do. What you do will be so fulfilling. You won't be afraid. Like, all of the things that actually make life terrible, God says you won't have to deal with those things. Where we mess it up is where we make a wrong definition of what a great life is that's different than the world that God ordered. It's the same way that people fail in business all the time. They say, well, it should be this way. Right? As our man Hormozy likes to say, you can be right or you can win.
Right.
Which would you like to do?
Yeah.
Because what he's saying is, a lot of people, their definition of right is what they think should be right. And he's saying that the win is based upon laws and order.
Yeah.
And so life has been a certain way for a long time. It's going to keep being that way. And you will win in life when you learn how to play that game, when you understand the law and order of who God is and the world that he's made, the system he's designed you in, and you begin to place large bets with your life, you'll like that story a lot better.
Yeah, that's so good, G. Because what I mean, and that's how we want to live. Like you said, to not know emptiness, but to know what it is to actually have purpose, to wake up every day and know that what you're doing is tied to that one thing. And the one thing is your purpose, right? So, like, daily, weekly, monthly, all your activities, you know, and, like, ideally we'd love to be able to measure it and know that we're moving towards those.
And it's the way that I operate my life today.
Right.
I don't know what God's going to do tomorrow. I don't know what God's going to do next year. What I do know, and what I have placed large bets on, like what I'm leveraging my life towards, is that what I'm doing is going to be great.
Yeah.
Right? That could include me dying tomorrow.
Right.
I could die tomorrow and God could call that great. What I know is that I've done everything that I can do up to this point to serve God's great purpose.
Yeah.
And when you trust in God, you trust in his plan more than your own. Now, I don't think I'm going to die tomorrow, but I also wrestled with that the first time I nearly died in combat, right? When bullets were flying through my helicopter. Like, I wrestled with God like, okay, I guess this was, maybe you're going to do something with my life after I'm gone. Because I thought you were going to do something with my life. Maybe you're just going to do something with my life after I'm gone. This wasn't the way that I thought it would go. Right. And then I lived through that moment and you know, I've talked about this many times, got the reminder like, no, I still have plans for you. I still have a purpose for you. If you're alive on the earth, that means I'm not finished with you. And so what I'm going to do with every breath in my lungs until I don't have that is live with God, with this understanding that God has a great plan for my life. I'm going to do all that I can possibly do.
Yeah. And I want to encourage people listening. If you hear Garrett say that and you're like, well, that's, you know, and you're probably not thinking this consciously, but you might be going, well, you know, I've never had a near-death experience, or I wish I could have a moment where it would all become clear like that. What I'll say to you, I've never had a moment like that, But I wake up and like I can stir up because you have to stir it up in yourself. You have to remind yourself of why you're here to about literally everything. I will wake up at 4:30. I'll be having my time with God, and I'll be like, man, I'm gonna go do a workout, and I'm gonna come back. I got a busy work day. It could be easy to be like, oh, I just got to get through all this. But instead, I'm like, no, this is literally why I'm here. This is the work God's gave me to do. And it's like, well, wait a minute, aren't you just working in a business? Like, how does that tie? Like, these are natural thought processes. Like, how do you tie that? I'm telling you, when you understand why God's put you here, you literally start to understand why every single thing that you do matters and ties to that purpose that He's created you for. And it is the only way to live. Like the thought, when I was depressed, this is what I was depressed about, was that I felt that nothing mattered. The way I live now is that everything matters, and I've not had a near-death experience. It's just I understand how God has engineered purpose into us and how He's designed and created us. And so I see every single thing I'm doing. I'm talking about from driving my truck to wherever I'm going, to the way that I look, to the way that I handle my finances, my marriage, my relationship with my kids, with others, how I tip somebody when I'm out, like how I treat people when I come in contact. Like literally every single thing in my life is tied to the purpose for why God has put me on the earth. And I think so few people get that. I think the closest thing we see where it's like engineered or manufactured for not eternal purposes is in athletics. Like, people who play a professional sport, they don't wake up, like I'm just gonna use baseball because I love it. They don't go hit baseballs, in the offseason and go like, why am I doing this? They know that the season's coming back around, that there's measurables. They can look and see, here's your batting average, here's your OPS, here's your WAR, like all the stats. We know how valuable you are. And your job is to be as valuable as possible to your team, because that's when you're going to win, and that's the whole point of why you're doing. Okay. Purpose, they don't lack any purpose. And even in that, you see various levels of commitment to like working out and all the other things in nutrition. But like there's no purpose. And I think that's what everybody would love is, man, how do I have it so that it's just, because you know what that is? That's 100% certainty. And what we're never going to say on this podcast is like, here's 100% certainty, the 4 steps to knowing down to the day, like, when you're going to die, every single thing that God has in store for you. It's just, that's not the way that God works. But we want that. And that's the closest thing we see is in athletics. But you know what happens? You retire eventually. And that's where you see a lot of guys get wrecked. What good am I now? It's my whole identity. What do I do with my life? And it's like, yeah.
I guess I'll just talk about baseball now.
That's what or I'll talk about it, or I'll coach it, or I'll start my own. And like, I'm not knocking that if that's you, because honestly, that could be God's purpose for your life, because you were talking to a group of athletes, and the thing that you told me that stuck out is that they're the most influential people in society, athletes. And so I go, okay, does God care about influencing people? 100% He does. So if you're an athlete and you're listening to this, you have a great platform, and do what you do with all your might as unto the Lord, and glorify Him through what you do, same as all of us. But that's where people see the ideal, when in reality, I think how most people live their lives is, whereas a baseball player is like, I want to get really good, so here's my goals for the year, and here's what I'm going to do on a daily basis to pursue those goals. I think most people are like, it's December 30th, man, like I should set a resolution. Man, I really do need to lose about 25 pounds of fat. So like, I'm going to make a goal. I'm going to get ripped this year. I'm going to go from whatever I'm at now to 10% body fat, and I'm going to get jacked. And like, they set this goal, and it's like, yeah, what are you doing this year, man? I'm getting ripped. I'm going to make $1 million. How much do you make now? I mean, like 80,000, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to make and like you, in a wave of inspiration, you see what you would like, because it's also responding to the pain that you have. And so you set these goals out. And then we have Quitter's Day, which is the second Friday in January, which is when most people give up on their goals. It doesn't even last 2 weeks, because it's a momentary inspiration where they, I believe, caught a good thing of like, yeah, you should believe. You should be questioning like, hey, what could I do with this time that I've been given, this gift that God's given me?
They finally did it because they felt like doing it. And
Right.
they stopped doing it when they didn't feel like doing it.
Right, because it had no purpose. It had no purpose. When you have like purpose tied to what you're doing, it's eternal fuel. I said to you beforehand, we were talking about, Garrett and I at the end of the year, and really throughout the year, we are always assessing what we're doing, but we always look at like the stuff that we talk about on here is what we actually live our lives out. So when we're talking about this, like we're having these conversations internally, okay, here's what's gone well this year. Like we're looking ahead at next year, like what should we be setting our sights on? And I said to Garrett, I said, if we do something just for growth, I'll quit on it. I know, because we've tried things in the past, and I'm like, but if we do something for purpose, I'll never quit on it.
Doing it for the sake of growth is like doing something for the sake of money.
Correct.
Which is like thinking that the purpose of a car is to put gas in it.
Right.
It's not the purpose of a car.
Right.
Right. You put gas in the car so the car can go where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
There's a greater purpose for the car than the car just driving around.
Exactly.
Right. Money is fuel.
Right.
Right. The purpose is not to make money.
Right.
Fuel is for the purpose.
Yes, very good, G. And that's the thing. So the purpose question that I'm asking about, on this podcast and in my life is, Lord, how can I be the most faithful to what you've put in my hand? Because the way we look at this podcast is like God's entrusted us with something in this podcast and with the people that listen. How do we best serve the people that He's entrusted us with? It's a very different question, but so I know that when we set a goal or when we identify something, I'll never stop on it. No matter how inconvenient it is, no matter how tired I am, I'll never stop on it because it's like now it's tied to purpose. And that's what people want. But for most people, they will set their goals in a wave of inspiration. And you said, G, if they accomplished all their goals, even the ones that they set in the wave of inspiration, it still wouldn't really add up to a lot because there's no central understanding of purpose.
Yeah, so to live the most purposeful year of your life, you've got to start with these beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay, like I've got to believe at a base minimum, right? If you listen to this podcast for long enough, if you have a relationship with Christ, you're going to pick this up. If you don't hear it from anybody else, if you've not had that gift, you're going to hear it from me. God has a great plan for your life, right? And let that sink deep into your soul, and let it be one of the words and phrases that means and matters most to you. Then you've got to get a picture of what greatness looks like in your life. You've got to develop your dream, right? We talk a lot more about this in Purpose with Mindset Mastery. We talk a lot more about this in the Purpose Playbook. Then you've got to get this understanding of, okay, where am I actually at and what's reality look like?
Yeah.
And set goals accordingly. A lot of people set their goal. Like if you're, I hope for anyone that you don't just quit your goals after 2 weeks, but there are also people who pursue their goals and go after them that even if they accomplish them, I'm not looking down on you, but I would encourage you to have set different goals than you did.
Right.
Because a lot of people's goals, they're very short-term focused. They didn't start with God is a great, great plan for my life, and here's what the end is supposed to look like. They set goals based upon something they experienced in the moment.
Yeah.
This is starting a business based upon something that, that happens seasonally. That's not going to be, you're not going to want to do this a year from now. It's not going to benefit anybody a year from now. Maybe you should have thought a little bit further ahead in your intention and with the plans that you made. For example, some people will set their goals and it's like, well, I'm going to lose weight this year and make some more money. Okay. Let's say you do that this year and next year you set some similar goals. Well, I'm going to try and make my marriage better and I'm going to start a new business. And you do that. And we keep doing these goals that you set, just whatever you pulled out of your brain mid-December for the next year. And you happen to be one of the very few people who accomplishes what they say every year. Let's say you did that for 10 years. I guarantee you won't like where you're at 10 years from now. Because you did not set all your goals. It's one of my favorite scriptures. Jesus talks about, he who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom. That is an analogy to how God says you produce, and you produce by looking at the end.
Yeah.
Right. I won't go into the analogy now because it takes a little bit longer to describe, but if you understand how they did agriculture back then, you have to look at the end. And if you're setting your goals based, well, here's what I'd like to do this year, and here's what I'd like to do this year. A great life for you is not a conglomeration of a bunch of annual goals accomplished.
Right.
That will be a very disjointed life. You'll have felt like you accomplished things, but at the same time feel like you accomplished nothing. You accomplishing your goals every single year for the next 10 years will not get you where you would say right now you'd like to be 10 years from now. You have to have a much longer intention, right? You've got to look further out. Look 10 years, look 20 years, look to the end. And then if you're focused on where do I want to be in 20 years, the goals you set this year would be very differently than if I just asked you, what would you like to do next year?
Yeah. And man, and that is the power of vision, what you just described. And I hope you actually grasp what you said, because I think for a lot of people, if they could just be like, man, well, I just hit my goals every year, and then that's going to put me further ahead. Yeah, you're making progress, but you're probably making progress. It's like walking in circles, and the circles gradually get bigger. You are, moving further along. You're just not moving nearly as far along as you could, nor are you actually going in any coherent direction.
Well, I won't go into all of them, but it's kind of like the motivation pyramid that I've talked about before. A lower level, the highest level of motivation is that you challenge reality.
Right.
And that's what this podcast is focused on. That's what my personal life is focused on. There's some things about reality that I disagree with, and I aim to challenge them.
Yeah.
A lot of people's goals in life is like, well, I'd like to be better than that guy, or I'd like to be a better version of me. And those are not necessarily horrible things, but they're not the best thing.
Right.
And as one of our teachers and mentors who said, Pastor Keith, don't let the good be the robber of the best.
Yeah, so good. So starting with vision, like you talked about, and like vision is seeing the mind of God and the presence of God, that's going to change how you start to live, how you set things today. Remember, we talked about this all being tied to purpose. When we look at life, we break it down to 8 areas, and it's spirituality, marriage, family, friendships, health, finance, business, and rest. When you start to see your life and you realize, okay, that encompasses everything, and you start to go like, okay, what would vision look like? Like you said, 10, 20-year vision in all those areas. Now it's like, okay, if God made me to prosper and there's wisdom for me in all these areas, I need to start like winning in all these areas. And this is part of the process of like fulfilling the purpose for my life. But this is where a lot of people fall down, because you can set a vision. Like there's people that have I think you can have vision is something that anybody can set. The vision is seeing the mind of God and the presence of God. So having a godly vision is going to be a game changer. But I think purpose, where it's an eternal calling card of God, is where things really separate. And I think that's where so many people misunderstand, right? And you've broken down purpose, so well.
I'll just comment on it quickly. Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking about vision in the Purpose Playbook. We've talked about it a ton on this podcast. The way my friend Joe Musselman and I talk about it is it's the world that you imagine. This is the world we wish to create. This is the world that we want to see. And you've got vision has to be something that's bigger than you. It's what you want to spend the rest of your life serving. And a lot of people's vision is poor. And what I mean by that is your idea of a vision is, well, I'd like to be financially successful.
Right.
I'd like to have financial peace. I'd like to have financial security. I'd like to have financial freedom, whatever that is. All those things are about you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that you can't ever have good things and you deserve nothing and you're terrible. It's not what I'm saying to people. But I'm saying that is not an end that you should pursue.
Right.
What you should pursue is, how can I serve? What can I do that's meaningful and valuable to other people? Kind of like our man, Tony Robbins. If you know his story, he didn't set out to make $1 billion. Mm-hmm. What initially inspired him was feeding somebody.
Yeah.
And then it turned into, well, I'm going to feed 1,000 people. I want to feed 1 million people. I want to feed 1 billion people, right? Isn't that what he's on right now?
Yeah.
Didn't he accomplish that
Yeah,
already?
he did, yeah.
Which is incredible.
That's insane. Yeah.
Right? That's what's been driving him. And everything that you see, everyone says, I want Tony Robbins' success. Well, you got to want what he wants to get what he got.
Right.
He didn't want what he has. He wanted to feed 1 billion people. Yeah. And he became who he had to be to do that.
Right.
It's a great example of a vision.
It really is. And vision, though, when you combine it with an understanding of purpose, that's whenever it becomes absolutely supercharged, right? Because if vision is seeing the mind of God and the presence of God, then you start to understand how purpose works. Well, now all of a sudden it's your vision isn't just like you said, what I want. It's no, this is driven by something eternal that I was put on this earth to do. And we say purpose is what's in your heart and what's in your hand, which sounds great. But when you actually understand how that works, you start to realize why it's so important for you to be faithful with what you're doing right now. Because for a lot of people, they're going well, what I really dream of is this, but I've got this job that I do that I don't really like. And actually I'm, out of shape, or, I don't really have great friendships, or insert whatever thing that you don't like is here that doesn't look like the dream that's in your heart. And for most people, because they can never see how they're going to get to be what's in their heart, at some point they quit and they just go, well, I guess that wasn't meant to be, or that was foolish, or whatever they have to tell themselves to make it not hurt as much. That's what happens. And my heart goes out to you, because it's I've been there, man. I've been there where I'm dude, this is not my life, but yet it was my life, and it was not pretty.
Well, it's a small vision, right? But when you have a vision that is great, when you have a vision that's serving God, when your heart is for him, when you develop wisdom from having a heart that's for him, that's where you can do what Joseph did, right? Mm-hmm. Some of my inspiration in my life, you can do what Joseph did, where he had a dream and for 13 years never got any closer to it. For 13 years. Right away, yesterday at Mighty Men, I was talking about some of the other people who served for a long time. People like Noah, for approximately 75 years, built his dream, built what God told him to build, in a world that had no value for his dream.
Right.
That ridiculed him, made fun of him, cursed him. You're a fool. You're doing the wrong thing. Building something that he didn't know would ever have any value.
Right.
But just because God told him. Right. And maybe your dream isn't going to be God told you. Maybe your dream is going to be like Joseph, where it just says Joseph had a dream. But Joseph's dream became God's purpose for his life. You've got to decide, God has a great plan for my life. Here's what I believe is right. Here's the way that I want to fix the world. Because here's the thing, right? The way that I want to fix the world is different than the way, all of you guys that are listening. God's put different dreams in your heart. God's put different skills in your hand. God raised you around different people, exposed you to different things than I was exposed to. and you see a different way. You see a different way to make the world better, right? But when you'll focus on that and say, you know what, this is the thing, and this is the way that I like to talk about vision and purpose, is that I share his name as many times as I can. My friend Charlie Keating, who died May 3rd, 2016, with a smile on his face, right? With a smile on his face, died. Most people will not die that way, right? They won't die happy. They'll die sad. They'll die afraid. They'll die depressed. Charlie didn't die with a smile on his face because his family received a $400,000 death benefit when he died. It's what the military, if you pay into it, by the way, you have to, there's something, it's like,
Really?
I remember it's like $15 a month. Or
Right,
something
okay.
like that. I mean, you have to sign up for it. And if you do that, when you die, that's what the military pays to your family. It's not why Charlie died with a smile on his face. He died with a smile on his face because he died fighting for something that was worthy of giving his life to. Because here's the truth. Here's the truth for all of us. We're not, I hope for nobody listening to this podcast, but at least for the vast, vast majority of us, you're not going to die the way that Charlie did in an instant. You're going to die slowly. You're going to die over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Maybe for some of you listening to this podcast, health is getting better. Maybe some of you don't die for 80, 90, or 100 years from now, some of you who are young. But at some point you will die, and you won't have died quickly. You'll have died slowly. But the point is you'll die. And you will what will determine if you die with a smile on your face or not is what you gave your life to. Charlie gave his life in an instant. The rest of us are going to give our life over decades, but you still gave your life to something. And if you don't give your life, you don't live for something that you'd be willing to die for, you will die sad, alone, depressed, wishing you had done it differently. And so watching some of my friends give their life for this country and do it, it's crazy. Like when Charlie died, there was so much honor. Right? There's like, we honored this man. It was almost like, it was sad that he died, but at the same time, there's like a victory in it. I want to die victoriously. I don't want to die on the battlefield. I was willing to do that. That's not what I'm asking for, but I do want to die victoriously. And the way that you're going to die victoriously is that you gave your life to something that was more valuable than you, or you can die sad and selfish.
Yeah, that's so good, man. So like we said, so living the most purposeful year of your life, I hope you guys can understand how important vision is. Now, the understanding of purpose, and it is really important here because, like I said, it's what's in your heart and what's in your hand. And we've talked about this at length on other podcasts, so I'm going to try and give people what they need here. So many people will look at what's in their hand, and what's in your hand is literally everything that you've been entrusted with right now. Whether you think you were entrusted with it or not, or you chose it or not, you have your experiences, your reputation, your name, your job, your resources, your skills, your friendships, your family, all that, like literally every single thing that is in your hand. And you can look at it two ways. You can go like, man, I drive a Toyota. What I really want to drive is a Ferrari. I'm just using this as an example. And you can get depressed that like, because the Toyota you got isn't a Ferrari, so you just treat the Toyota terribly. I don't change the oil, whatever. It's not a Ferrari. I don't need to treat it nicely. But when I get a Ferrari, then I'll start doing all these things. That's how a lot of people think. When you start realizing, hang on a minute, God's the one that's engineering your purpose, not you, which means you've got to be faithful with what's in your hand. So what if sticking with the car analogy, I'm going to make sure that I am being excellent with my car. I'm going to make sure it's always clean. I'm going to make sure that it's getting the maintenance that it needs, that I'm putting the right type of fuel in it, that I'm driving intelligently. Because you know what? Then whenever I get the Ferrari, I don't need to be like, oh man, I need to learn a bunch of stuff. I'm ready for it. And so when we say purpose is what's in your heart, what's in your hand.
If you can't take care of a Toyota, because Toyotas have a pretty low maintenance profile.
They do, yeah.
If you can't take care of a Toyota, your Ferrari is going to fall apart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're gonna be in bad. But that's a great analogy of it, is because you're right. It is what your purpose is going to demand more of you than what you currently are right now. So if you can't figure out what you got right now, why would you ever think that you're going to have
everybody
more?
wants a bigger house? You can't take care of the house you got.
Yeah.
Don't double the square footage of your house.
Well, I would like to make more of an impact. Well, how are you making an impact where you're at now? Well, my dream is to have, to reach millions of people. How are you reaching the 3 people that are in your family right now? How are you reaching the 4 people that you see at the coffee shop every day? Yeah. Like this is, so
that's God's multiplication.
100%.
If you can't use what I've given you, I won't give you more. Lead yourself. It's one of Pastor Keith's great templates. Lead yourself, lead your wife, lead another man. Then you begin to you can lead. If you can do those things, You can lead so many people.
Yeah.
But if you can't lead yourself well, if you can't lead your wife well, if you can't lead another man well, you're not going to be able to lead tens, hundreds, thousands of people.
Yeah. And when you understand that you won't see purpose until you look back, that it's not like you go, you have this thing where I was like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. But you understand, actually, I need to be faithful with what's in my hand right now. But man, I got this dream in my heart. One day those things cross and you look up and you go, wait a minute, I used to dream about this stuff and now that's exactly what my life is. That's whenever you kind of go, wait a minute, purpose is actually on me now.
I'm still experiencing, I'm 35 at this point, and I'm still experiencing stuff in my life where here's a dream I've had since I was a little boy, and it doesn't match up with what's in my hand. I'm still in seasons of my life where I'm just finally seeing some things come together that I've had this dream for a long time. Right. And there's stuff in front, like there's stuff that I see is like happening now, that's happening in the next couple of years. And there's stuff that I see that still is, I don't know where this is going to happen or if it's ever going to happen. I'm just going to keep running like it is. You have to have this, again, it goes back to the beliefs foundation, the beliefs anchor. You've got to say, God has a great plan. I'm going to live as hard as I can. I'm going to do all that I can. And if God doesn't do exactly what I wanted him to do or doesn't show up the way that I wanted him to, I'm not going to be sad and cry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you have that vision and you have an understanding of how purpose works, it's like, okay, here's the 20-year vision I have for all those areas of my life, for like my spirituality, my marriage, my family, my friendships, my health, my finance, my business, my rest. This is like what I see. This is what I think. This is what I believe I'm believing God for. But I understand that it's not going to happen because I'm going to wish for it or God's just going to genie God it and just bring it in one day. I've got to be faithful with what's in my hand before I'll see what's in my heart. So now I'm going to get to work. But I'm not just going to get to work and be like, I'm just going to drink 7 Red Bulls a day and just work 27 hours a day.
We've been misled into what our version of a hero is.
Yeah.
Right. A Hollywood hero is luck. A Hollywood hero is like, well, everything was given to this guy. Like Superman just showed up on Earth and has all the powers. Right. These people are so different than us. That's romantic and fun to watch because it's detachment. It's entertainment. It doesn't put obligation upon you. Yeah. Right. Like, and if you once you become wise to it, you won't really like those stories anymore. God's version of a hero is David, where like it says in Psalms, because of the way that he shepherded his people, shepherded his sheep, and the skill of his hand, the integrity of his heart, God made him a king. Yeah. Because of what he did with little things, God made him a king. That's not typically the Hollywood hero story. Here's this small guy, who just was great at sweeping the floor, and God made that guy a king. Right. That's not the Hollywood hero is the luck hero. And so make sure you're not paying attention to the wrong stories. Yeah. Let your idea of a hero story, let your idea of becoming, let your idea of growth and greatness come from many of the great stories in the Word of God.
Yeah, so good. So once you understand that vision and purpose and you're ready to get to work, you also have to understand priorities. And the way we define priorities is what you're least willing to fail at. Caveat, you don't want to fail at any of those.
So this messes people up when I say this. Priorities are different than goals. Terms matter, right? If you deal in business, if you deal in contract, if you deal in things that matter, you understand that definition sets up everything. Start writing a big contract, you'll realize the first thing you got to do is define terms. You need to understand, you know what you should value a lot is your life. And define, a lot of people they set these parameters for their life on terms they don't even understand. Yeah. Define rules, define goals, define vision, mission. It's why we take terms on this podcast really seriously, because I'm trying to give people the actual, if I just say grab a firearm, that's a lot of things, right? Let me tell you exactly what you need for this mission. Right? You need to know with precision what is determining and directing where your life is going. Yeah. And okay, so priorities. Let me give some meaning to this. Priorities and goals are not the same thing. Goals is what you would like to accomplish. Goals is what you want to give effort and resources towards. Priorities is what you defend. Priorities is what you would least like to fail at. A lot of people, I wouldn't say put me on a pedestal, but look at me with a measure of authority in ministry, with a measure of, okay, that guy really follows God. And it messes people up when I say none of my goals are about increasing my relationship with God. I don't have any, my goals for last year, my goals for the year before that, my goals for next year. None of them say I want to grow in my relationship with God. It's not one of my goals. My number one priority is that I would never fail in my relationship with God, that I would never backslide in my relationship with God. It's what I would die defending. It's what I'm willing to die for. And what is your number one, number two, number three priorities in your life should be things that you would leap in front of a car for.
Right.
Right. Now, I've got a lot of goals that I'd like to accomplish. I wouldn't leap in front of a car for a lot of my goals. I would leap in front of a car for my priorities. These are the things I least want to fail at. Now, I don't want to fail at anything.
Right.
But I know with order and precision which measure of these things. It's one of the challenging, painful, difficult parts of battlefield medicine is what's called triage. And triage comes from many horrible lessons learned in combat medicine, not just like last 100 years, through hundreds of years of studied combat medicine, is that there's times where you have a medic, you have one medic, you have two medics, and you have 74 people injured. You can't treat all of those people.
Right.
And so what the medic has to, it's one of the most painful things a medic would ever have to do is look at people who are in pain, screaming in pain, dying, and quit in a second, assess their injury, say, I can't help him. That you would just, why? A lot of people, so that's so mean. Right? I could take the principle from combat medicine and pull it into today's culture and identify a lot of problems.
Yeah.
People say, so why wouldn't you help that person? Because helping ease this person's pain means sacrificing another person's life. And sometimes in life, you have to make hard decisions, right? You have to know by what structure and order would I make these difficult decisions. A combat medic knows through triage that I'm going to quickly look at everyone's wounds and determine whose life can I save, not whose pain can I ease.
Yeah.
It's putting value on the wrong things. And with priorities, you have to be able to do this and say, hey, look, I don't want to fail at anything. A combat medic can say, I don't want anybody to die.
All right.
But I understand reality and I can't save everyone today.
Yeah.
So who can I save? And I'll give the most value and the least, I have minimal resources of my time and combat tools. And medic tools. So here's what I can accomplish.
Right.
You have to be prepared to do this with your priorities. If dominoes started falling in my life, which ones will I defend the most? So once you have your priorities, and I have my list of priorities, then after that, once I got all my priorities defended, once my house is in order, by the way, it's one of Jordan Peterson's rules for life. Once my house is in order, then all the energy, effort, time, resources I have left, I will fully direct them at my goals.
Right.
It's the difference, right? A lot of people think priorities and goals are the same thing. No, they're very different. There's defense and offense in life.
That's so good, man. And that understanding you talked about in relation to time, energy, resource, it's also with seasons of life. And I'm not going to go fully into this, but like there's times when if you're in your early 20s, what do you have? You have a lot of time and a lot less responsibilities. Now your priority might be spirituality, aka God first, for your entire life. But like all the other 7 that follow after that are going to be in a different order at that season in your life. And so like things like friendships might be really high up, which means you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to put a lot of time and energy towards these things because I'm in that season of life where it's like, and I don't think a lot of 20-year-olds actually realize this, but when you look back on it, you're like, oh yeah. Like I look at my season of my life I'm in right now and I'm like, you know what? My friendships are deeply important to me, but they're not as high up the priority list right now because what am I doing? I'm building a family. I'm building businesses. I'm in a lot of things. So what I have to do is I have to order my life so that I can still invest in those things, but find a way to do it. And that's not going to be like, oh man, I need 7 days a week of like hanging out with people. Otherwise I'm failing here. And that's where I think a lot of people get into.
I haven't hung with the homies in 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Well, people bring a 20-year-old definition. It's like, hey, what are your friendships? Like, how do you know if someone's your real friend? Man, they're my ride or die. We talk all the time. They know everything going on in my life. And I'm like, okay, hang on a minute. For like, who do you actually have like that? Well, I don't, man. And that's why people suck. Oh, so everybody sucks because
I like your Gen Z accent.
Yeah, I mean that's like inner dude, bro, Nick, from like his young, his late teens. Like, but that's how a lot of people will be. They'll feel like they don't have any friends. It's because they have a bad definition, aka a misunderstanding of the season of life that they're in. And so when you start to understand the season of life that you're in, you apportion the priorities of things differently. You know what I mean? And so I'll just say that it's worth a lot more exploration there. But I want to move on because I think we've explained what priorities are. So then once you do this, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to set some, remember the whole point of this is that we're going to set you want to live purposely every day, aka you want to give yourself some targets and some goals that are tied to a larger vision and purpose that God's put in your life. So that when you wake up and you're like, here's what I'm pursuing today, you don't ever have to sit there and wonder why. Because if you ever have to wonder why, or you start thinking the why doesn't matter, that is the beginning of quitting. When you understand your rules for growth, aka how you measure progress, it is a game changer. And we go over this, like I said, like with all this, we go over this a lot deeper in the Purpose Playbook, but I'm just I'll give you this. If you're trying to say, well, what do you mean for rules for growth? If I said to you, hey, how was your marriage last year? Like, did it get better or worse? Everyone's going to have an answer if they're married. And then I would say, okay, why? When you give me your why, you are giving me...
Dang it. Don't ask me that question.
Well, yeah, but if I say, did your health get better or worse, and you do DEXA scans, that's super easy, right? Like, well, I was, I dropped down to this percent, whatever. But if I say your marriage, or if I say like your friendships or your relationship with God, that's very subjective. So like this, and this is where people fall apart. So like the marriage example, actually, I'll stick with friendships here because I used that example previously on priorities. The friendship example, if I say, did your friendships get better or worse? If somebody says worse, I'll say why. And it's like, okay, well, let's say that you still have a bad definition of friendship. Well, I didn't like hang out with people nearly as much. I felt like, like none of my friends, like they're all off doing their own thing. And, I just don't feel like we're very connected, and we don't ever like go do anything. Okay. So what are your rules for friendship? That you need to do things together. You need to know what's going on in the life, in your life. And you need to be spending time together. So if you have that understanding of that's how you feel progress in friendships, guess what things you need to start doing to serve that area of your life? You need to be the one that initiates time to hang out. You need to be the one that's making the call to your friends. So you might sit there and go like, you know what? Because I want to grow in this area, I'm going to make sure that I'm intentional about that. Now, if you're smart and if you understand priorities as well, you might be going, well, I'm 38 and I've got 3 kids and 2 businesses and a wife. So this is not going to be a weekly thing of us hanging out. I'm going to make sure that I have 3 really intentional friendships. And with those people, I'm going to call them, twice a week, and we're going to hang out once a month. That would be a way to like intelligently put something in place that's sustainable, that's process-based all year, and you can win.
Or maybe you get it, you learn what we've talked about here for how to multiply your life.
Right.
And your friends are the people that you're advancing the kingdom of God with. Your friends are the people that you're building businesses with. And so you get to have great relationships because you do the most meaningful things together.
Right. And that's combining alignments with it. But I hope you're seeing, like, for the rules for growth, most people, if you said, did it get better or worse, and then you ask them why, they'll say all the reasons, but they don't realize that actually they've just told you everything that measures progress. And some people need to change their rules. So once you've understood all these things, then you can actually, I gave an example of what an intelligent goal would be for friendship if you were going to choose to set a goal for friendship. Now you actually say, okay, here's the purpose for my life. Here's the areas that are I have the vision, I have the purpose, I understand what priorities are, I understand what actually makes me feel progress in these areas and my rules. And sometimes you need to change your rules. So now I can actually sit there and go and select targets. And you, G, are your target selection is your thing.
Goals, I call goals target selection.
Right.
Because in the military, there was priority, there was order of importance from, hey, here's the big vision, right? Like, let's just talk military for a second, because that's where my target selection term comes from. In the military, the big vision, right? You swore an oath to protect and defend this country, right? When you join the military. So the big vision is protect and defend freedom and democracy.
Yeah.
Protect and defend the ideals of America. Be willing to give your life for this. This is the vision, okay? Then underneath that, depending on what branch of the service you're in, what region of the world you go to, there's dozens of different major mission sets that the military is involved in, right? Now you got even more stuff. You got space warfare, cyber protection. There's all these different major mission sets that you can be under, but you get underneath one of those large mission sets, and then there are sub missions underneath that, right? In the SEAL teams, I was operating in like a second or third level of sub mission underneath a major primary mission. Then they would say like, okay, here's your mission, the big mission, like protect and defend this area, assert dominance in this area, remove this set of ideals from this area, eliminate this group of people, develop intel on this group of people. This is like a sub-mission set of like, hey, here's what you need to accomplish that accomplishes this, that accomplishes this. So once you get that, you get a mission that is digestible to a point where you can develop a strategy by which to accomplish those things. And like Eisenhower said, planning is essential. Plans are useless. What you do is you take this, here's what's in my hand, right? They didn't put in Garrett's hand, protect and defend freedom and democracy.
Right.
That was why I was doing what I was doing. That can't fit in any one man's hand. but they did put within not just my hand, but like my team and my platoon's hand. They put in our hand, they said, okay, remove this group of people, right? You can do it. I can't tell you how, and you can't do it all at once, and you probably don't know exactly what the answer is, but there's a way to do it. You guys figure it out, okay? Then you develop some planning, some strategy that goes with that, and we basically set a series of goals. We're going to do this, which will lead to this, which will lead to this. Just like a business can have OKRs and say it like objectives and key results. I'm going to do this, and here's how I'll measure the success, right? And that'll lead to the next thing and lead to the next thing. That's target selection. So bringing this back to where I was talking about goals, a lot of people just get out there on the battlefield of life and, hey, let's shoot a bad guy today.
Right.
Like, great. You shot a bad guy today. You can shoot a bad guy 100 days in a row and accomplish nothing towards protecting and defending freedom and democracy. You've exposed yourself quite a bit, probably taken some casualty along the way, and not made any, you've accomplished tasks, but made no meaningful growth towards what the greater objective is. So target selection, different than goals. Goals is just like literally, hey, let's shoot that target. Let's shoot that target. Target selection is looking at the greater vision and mission and seeing the linear path all the way from protect and defend freedom and democracy down to what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Yeah. And that's really where we want everybody to get to, because when you have that level of significance tied to what you're doing, that's whenever you'll never stop running. And we would say that you would also want to weigh these up against your core values and have a time management framework in place, because like we said, so many people lose sight of these things. For the sake of time, because we are coming up on an hour here, G, I'm gonna just say that you need to have a process in place. If you want ours, we literally have a free blog for the time management framework for how to keep aligned with your goals.
Nick contributed a lot to our time management framework. A lot of people want Navy SEAL thought process for time management, but Nick added so much value to what we teach in Mindset Mastery and what we teach in Purpose Playbook as it aligns to time management. I
thanks, G. Well, it's because I run 3 businesses. I got 3 kids. I'm deeply involved in ministry. I work out and do all these different things. You have to be good at time management.
I say that to say there's great value in the time management piece, because it's like both of us adding a lot to it from very different perspectives.
Right, and I learned a lot of the foundational principles from you, and then just applied them in my life. So, guys, I hope you are looking ahead. I hope that you're seeing yourself with potential and saying, man, I am made for a reason. I want to develop my character to go out and complete the mission and slay the end boss, and know that whenever you slay that end boss and you get to the end of the game, you know what you hear in real life? Well done, good and faithful servant. And when you have that understanding and that perspective, you go and you develop yourself. You understand how purpose works, that you got to be faithful with what's in your hand. You understand prioritizing your life and understanding the things that you are not willing to fail at. And from there, you understand how you progress, and you can set goals that you can wake up every single day and know that today matters. All the little things, all the things that other people call mundane, are the things that you begin to find joy in, because you know that it's tied to a greater purpose. And when you live like that, you will know that God is with you. He's given you grace. He's gone before you. And when you set out each and every single day, every single person you come across is part of that path, part of that purpose, and you will literally feel this incredible sense of purpose that so many people say they want. And it's because you understood that God had a plan for you, and you followed after it with every single thing that you had. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Remember to share, like, subscribe. If you think that this would be something that someone would enjoy, please send it to them. We appreciate it all. If you want to get in touch, you can follow us on Instagram at The Impossible Life. You'll find us on there. You can also email at impossiblelifepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, if you want to get in touch and find out about Garrett's personal or business coaching, that's the way to do it. Thank you again for listening. Go out there, think better, and live the impossible. See you again soon.